knocking doors, go place to place looking for who no one can love you the way I do. They don't understand what's the you love and strength he are. Love everything you are. You show me, yeah. You are my shining star.
Hi, everyone. I am Casey Jean Shostad with CS1 Cybercom, and I am super excited to be hosting tonight's talk with Twin Souls Kimberly and Brandon Hall. Just wanted to say how much we really appreciate all of you who are and will be tuning in. And to start, I'm going to read a brief description provided by Kimberly in which she explains what twin souls and twin flames are. Some people may see things differently, so we thought it would be a good idea to sort of start off by sharing Kimberly and Brandon's perspective. So twin souls are the same soul fragmented into two bodies. They serve as mirrors for each other, showing themselves the things they each must work on as humans in the physical. It can be a challenge, but if they remain open to seeing the reflections and are willing to do the inner work, they can even help heal traumas in one another. They work as a team, even though they may not be aware of what they're doing. They have a very important mission together. Their energy creates portals to access higher levels of consciousness. Self-awareness and self-love are key to the process of meeting and coming into divine union with your twin soul. It's what draws you to each other. The twin flame is never outside of us. It is the divine masculine and divine feminine energies within ourselves. There is a tipping point when these energies start to become balanced and the twin flame ignites. When twin souls come into union and have done their inner work, they are able to awaken their Kundalini, or the primordial energy, a force that can be used to combine the body, mind, and spirit into a cohesive whole. In twin souls, the Kundalini evokes a shared twin flame. So that's the difference between the twin souls and twin flame. And hopefully that'll bring some clarity to the talk. And I think it's time to get started. This is Kimberly and Brandon, and I'm going to ask you to start off by telling us about the beginning of your relationship.
Okay, so you want to hear the story of how we met?
That would be great.
Okay. So it was July 2016. And we found each other on Facebook. We had a mutual friend in common, but we hadn't yet discovered that. And she had added us to a group that was called Let's Talk. And I had seen a lot of comments from Brandon, and I don't know why, but I was like instantly drawn to him. But I was like, oh, you know, he's probably taken. Right. So I didn't bother, but he kept appearing all over Facebook. Eventually he reached out to me. I was going to send him a friend request, but then I heard a voice say, don't worry, he's going to send you one. And we started talking, and our first conversation was past lives. And I had recently uncovered a past life. Where I was a girl named Annabelle that lived in the English countryside. I was in love with a native man. His name was Navarro. And I told him the story, and he kind of got quiet for a minute. And I was like, oh, great. You know, I just scared him. He's going to run for the hills for sure. He thinks I'm crazy. And then he proceeds to tell me, you know, I wrote this story. And I was like, no way. And he's like, yeah, I wrote it. The whole thing. Everything you just said, I wrote. And something in me was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to believe him, but he sent it to me. He wasn't lying. Sorry, but it was like a too good to be true type of thing. It turned out to be very true. What did you call the story?
Perpetual.
It was called Perpetual, and he was seeing this life in dreams. So that's why he started writing. After that, I think we talked for about a month, and then we finally met in person, but it was like an instant connection. It was something that you couldn't explain. It's like, I know this person. Like, I knew what he was going to sound like before I talked to him on the phone. And we talked on the phone the first night, and it was, you know, hours. And there was so much in common, so many synchronicities between us that it was crazy. So we met in person, and as soon as he touched me, there were all these flashes of lifetimes that I had spent with him. And it kind of scared me, to be honest. I was terrified. I was like, what is this? So it took a little bit for us to get together, but we finally got together August 20th of 2016. And shortly after that, I had surgery. We had a lot of challenges. I had surgery where things did not go according to plan. And he lives in America. I'm Canadian. And I asked him to come and see me, and he said, you know, I'm sorry, I can't make it. But then I told him, you know, I need you to come and see me. I was telling him weeks before, like, something really bad is going to happen with the surgery. And he kept trying to say, you know, you're going to be fine. He kept trying to reassure me, but he could feel something too. He just didn't want me to, you know, be worried. He knew I needed to have the surgery. So fast forward, I had the surgery. Things went really bad. I ended up suffering massive internal bleeding. I was dying, basically. And he felt the urgency to come and see me. And I honestly believe if he didn't, I wouldn't be here. Because when he showed up, it was like he healed me. And he even says that to this day. Do you have anything to add?
I think that was the moment that I knew that I couldn't live without her. Or that I couldn't imagine a world without her in it. The moment that I touched her, it seemed like she came back to life. The color began to fill her skin. She was porcelain pale, but as soon as I touched her hand, she began to grow pigment again. She began to come to life. She could sit up, she could speak. Her eyes widened, and it seemed like she could actually see what was in front of her, where before it just seemed like it was a dimness. But that was when I knew I didn't want to leave her side.
That is outrageous. I got goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that. You know, I've had the privilege of getting to know the two of you, and I know that there's so much more to share. One of the interesting parts of your story I have found was some of the synchronicities that helped you realize how actually profound your connection was. I know one of them was dancing in the kitchen. Maybe you want to share that story, Kimberly?
So throughout my childhood, my father would always dance with my mother in the kitchen. It didn't matter what she was doing, but he could also sense when she was really upset, and he would just go up to her and, you know, dance with her. And there was a specific song that he would always sing to her while he was dancing. And I always told myself, you know, when I get married, I'm going to have a husband that dances in the kitchen with me. And I think it was the first or second time that I came to Brandon's house, he put on that song and started dancing with me in the kitchen. And of course, I broke down into tears because, yeah, like, what are the odds that you would play this song and, you know, that you would dance with me? And I knew then that my father probably had a huge impact with us coming together, us finding each other. Brandon had actually seen my father prior to us meeting, but he didn't know who this man was. And, you know, the man told him, like, it's your job now. You're going to take care of her. When I showed him a picture, he was like, oh my God, I've seen him. He's come to me before. He's told me, you know, I need to take care of somebody, but I didn't know who it was. And he's like, oh my God, that was your father? So that was one big one for us.
And how old were you when your father passed?
7.
7. So
Yep.
that is an extremely profound story. There's another one of my favorite stories. I know one of the real interesting things about your relationship is how many times you've had not only just the same dreams, but where you've shared with Brandon a dream or something that happened and it was in one of his books. For those of you who don't know, Brandon Hall is an author, and he writes what I guess you would consider a science fiction genre, but that doesn't even come close to describing the types of things Brandon writes about. He's channeling, bringing this information in, bringing in memories from long ago, and then weaving it into a story. It's just absolutely extraordinary. So I know that there have been times when Cam has told you about a dream she's had or something she's downloaded or seen, and it turns out that you had written that in one of your books.
It typically deals with mostly with past lives or certain ideologies that you know, in the beginning I didn't even know that we shared. That was another thing that bonded us. It was just a happenstance conversation. I was explaining to her the concept of the book that was out at that time, Inception. And she said, oh my God, we are one. And, you know, I was taken aback. And I asked her, well, what do you mean? And she said, do you believe in twin flames, twin souls? I said, because at that time I hadn't really heard of the concept, but I was exactly writing that, and where the character within the story was bound and connected to another one, that no matter where his life turned, he was always bound to this other character. And you know, that gave me the encouragement to actually alter some things that took place within the second volume that was slated to be released. And I found that a lot of the past life references that I used for that character were actually lives that she and I remembered together. And then it was clear to me there that I'm actually not having dreams. I'm actually having visions. I'm seeing my life with my wife in several different stages. And this is something that's more prophetic. I think it was, you know, though people say that it can be used as a source to activate, I think it was more of an activation of what was always inside of me. But I needed her because she was that key that unlocked all those things inside of me that I just thought were concepts and ideas.
That's wild. Thank you for sharing that. How long after you met did the two of you realize that you were twin souls in union?
It was almost immediate.
Yeah, it was like this feeling that you just could not shake. Like, I've known this person and I've known him a very long time, even though, when we first met in person, it had only been a month that we had been talking. But from the first night we started talking, it was like, we were the best of friends forever and we were just reconnecting. That was kind of the energy that I think we both felt. The hospital was a big one.
I was about to bring that up.
Of course you were. That was massive for us because, we've been able to feel each other. We know when the other one is upset. I could just think, I'd really like to talk to him. I hope he calls me, and he'll call me immediately. Like, it's just little things like that. But yeah, it was pretty much immediate. I mean, when I had the surgery, we had only been together for 2 weeks and we were already talking marriage. It already felt like we were married. And another big thing is my mother, of course you were. My mother was extremely racist. Okay, she was brought up to be that way. And we were always taught that we don't ever date outside of our race. So I was terrified to introduce her to Brandon. But at that time, I wasn't speaking to her. We had a big falling out because she wanted me to marry somebody simply because, I'd have security. And I wasn't happy. And so we had a falling out. And before the surgery, I had a vision of, me on my deathbed and her crying over me, apologizing and everything. And I told Brandon about it. I said, my mother and I are about to reconnect. And that's when, you guys are going to meet. And of course, I had already told him all the stories. So he was like, I don't know how I feel about that. But my mother was super skeptical of our relationship. She hadn't met him or anything yet. She had heard about him. When he came, when I was, basically on my deathbed, she got to see the love between two people that she had never witnessed. And she had the utmost respect for him. She completely accepted him to the point where she would defend him if anybody said any, ill words about him. It was crazy because it changed her. It changed like everybody's perspective. Us being together, it like opened everybody else up to it, which was pretty crazy. I didn't see that one coming.
Especially following the stories that I had heard of Kim and her family, how her family members were, and to see how just in one meeting, how quick they were to embrace me. And to some extent, they started to gel together as well.
Yeah.
In ways that they hadn't been for years. Where, now they're in constant communication with each other. They share events with each other. They go out together. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, just to see how the union between Kim and I can be a unifier for, a small collective.
Yeah, that's beautiful. As being twin souls, you're the same soul, but in two different bodies, which is very different from like a soul mate, where it's two different souls that are recognizing each other from other lives, from their multidimensionality, or from just being together in source or what have you. what does it feel like to realize that you're actually with another aspect of yourself as opposed to a totally different soul?
Sometimes, I don't know, sometimes I don't really have the words for it. Yes, sometimes you find yourself um, saying things like, I could never marry a person like me because I know how I am. But it's one of those things that because we've had similar and yet vastly different life experiences, it opens you up in a way, opens the causways up for you a little bit, that allows you to connect to certain emotions or connect to certain feelings or certain things that you didn't realize that you were either closed off from or that you were neglecting, or it's that mirror, the thing that you always reject, and now you come to accept it.
And love it, or learn to love it anyhow. So now, in both of you are aware of other lifetimes that you've been together. In all of those other lifetimes, are you twin souls?
Yes. When you think about separate lifetime, well, different lifetimes, and when you find yourself bound to certain lives or lifetimes, the other person is always the complement to the other. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. We do know there was a lifetime that we weren't actually twins. We were brother and sister, but it doesn't matter, what incarnation it is. We've always been together.
And
that much we've been able to discover.
Well, and you did say that twin souls, just like soulmates, don't have to be in a marriage or in a romantic relationship. It could
Right.
happen with a mother and daughter, or brother and sister, or friends, or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. How do you feel you've grown from being in union?
I think I've become more compassionate and empathetic. Before we got together, I was very hard-hearted, very cold. I wouldn't say to the point of bitter, but I didn't trust. And and if you did gain my trust didn't come easy. And I realized that when I was trying to bring my daughter up, we were in Atlanta at the time, and we were at the airport, and I've been the father role and the mother role to my daughter. She hasn't had, a mother for her. She's had a grandmother, which was, that female figure, but she wanted, someone that was a motherly figure. And I realized that I had been closing myself off, from one, the kind of love that I deserve, and two, being able to provide her with that sort of comfort that only a mother can give. I can't do those things. I'm not a girly man, and I don't do tea party and those kind of things, those little cute things. We threw the football together. We played basketball together. I trained her in martial arts from the age of 2. So I couldn't be that other part, that feminine part that she needed. And I told her when we were in the airport, it's time for me to open myself up, soften up a little bit. It's time for me to find that kind of love that we deserve. And it was almost instantaneous. The moment that I opened myself up to that, I met Kim.
Yeah. So you really put it out there, and her soul was also waiting for you, and you were both just waiting for that energetic connection to take
Yeah,
place.
it was almost like we sent a beacon out,
Mm-hmm.
and the signals synced. I find myself talking to her, and I think after the flight home, it's the first time that we actually connected on the telephone, and I haven't looked back.
So it sounds like what you're saying is a big part of what you've gained from being in union is a better understanding and acceptance of your divine feminine.
Correct.
Yeah. And for me, I've always been a very loving, forgiving person. Patience. I've always had patience. Brandon is not the most patient person in the world, so I've taught him patience. I know that. But for me, when things would get to be overwhelming, my defense mechanism was to shut down. I would shut down, I would go inside myself, and, I would just, what he calls, live in your feelings. He actually taught me not to do that it's okay if, things are not going well. You can talk about them. You don't have to live in your feelings by yourself. You can talk your way through. He also taught me to have people take accountability for the things that they do to other people, because like I said, I was so forgiving. I was basically a doormat. He taught me, how to still be the softer side of myself, but also stand up for myself, which was huge. That was a big challenge for me. I'd done it my entire life. I was used to being isolated and just basically shut down. Yeah. With him, I couldn't do that, because even if I tried to shut down, he would know something was wrong. He would instantly sense it. And he would like push and push and push until I would come out with it. He wouldn't leave me alone. And it drove me crazy at some times. But I learned a lot. I grew a lot from the things that he taught me. So we definitely taught each other a lot. The things that we both had inside of us, but we may not have been aware of, we brought those out for each other, and we worked through them together, that was huge.
Beautiful. So what advice do you think you might have for people who are seeking or are already in union?
For those seeking, I would say don't. Let it happen naturally. Because when we start looking for things, we'll find it in anything. And that's where you run into a lot of false positives. And you in the interim, you ignore all the red flags because this other person, represents the thing that you're looking for at that moment, until down the road you find that you actually have nothing in common, and it was more of an infatuation than it was an actual connection. For those that are in union, I would say learn patience, because you may not realize it, but this person is actually the mirror. It's going to bring out things in you that you didn't realize were there. You're going to have to face yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to learn to accept certain things, and you're going to have to learn to grow from it. And remember that other person is there for you to grow, not only within, but together. And as you're taking those lessons in, realize that, you know, that person that you're in union with, they're also growing from that.
Beautiful. Sounds like there's a lot of work involved in being in union.
Yeah, and that's a common, you know, thing that people believe that if you find your twin soul, it's all butterflies and rainbows. It's not. That's definitely, I would say that's a myth. It's not that, you know, him and I argue, but we have our disagreements, but we work through them. We have probably far fewer than most people because we have such a deep understanding of, you know, who the other person is. It's not going to be all butterflies and rainbows. It takes work. Like anything else, it takes work. You have to have, like he said, patience is huge, because all those things that you've buried, all the pain that you've buried will come out. That person will bring them out of you. And, you know, they might not even intend to do it, but this is the mirror to yourself. You're going to see yourself. You have to face yourself, and you just have to do it together. Don't try to do it on your own. Communication is definitely key. And, you know, like you said, self-love is really important, because if you get to a point where you love yourself unconditionally, you're not going to settle. You're going to know, you know, exactly what you're looking for in somebody, and you're not going to just sweep things under the rug. If there's red flags coming up, you know, pay attention for sure.
And, you know, I think for a lot of people, when they haven't done the inner work, or have not gotten to the point with their inner work where they can forgive themselves, love themselves, appreciate themselves, they look outward to be with somebody that they could focus all their love and concern and caring for. And that this type of relationship is not for them at this time if they're not willing to do the inner work to love themselves.
Right, because you'll clash. If you're not ready, you're gonna clash for sure. You have to be willing to put in that work. You have to be willing to face your fears. I mean, I had a lot of them. I had fears of abandonment, you know, based on experiences in my life. Everybody had walked away. So it was like, well, I'm just waiting for you to do the same thing. And he obviously had to have a lot of patience with that, because I know I wasn't the easiest person to deal with at times. But you work through everything together. We've had a lot of challenges come our way, not necessarily things that happened in our relationship, but just obstacles that would appear. Like, we still don't live together. We're still working on that process of being together full time. So that was a huge challenge. You know, we would communicate every day, but how many people want, you know, how many people picture themselves being married to somebody that you can't wake up with every day? It's really, really hard, but it also teaches you a lot. And I think it's strengthened our bond. The times that we've had to be apart, and there have been a lot of times. The times I needed him the most, you know, when my son was diagnosed with cancer, he wasn't able to be there for me. I had to talk to him on the phone, but he couldn't physically be there, you know, to give me a hug and stuff like that. I think that's when we had our first shared dream, though. We connected in dreams. Like, I actually heard him talking to me, calling out my name. I was asleep, and, you know, he had a dream that same night where he was looking for me. We were going somewhere and he had lost me, and in the dream he did call out my name. So I actually heard him.
Wow. And so now, I know for myself that when I get triggered about something that I don't really, want to look at or see about myself that maybe I don't like, that I wish I could change, but I haven't done the work to do so. And after I get triggered, how, it makes me feel and react. So I can just only imagine if you're with somebody that by being with them, you're being triggered to take a look at your own self, how you would have to really be ready for that and really be committed to embracing the journey that you're about to embark on.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, they're the biggest trigger that you will ever face in your life. Like they will bring things out. And like I said, it doesn't have to be intentional. It's a subconscious thing that will happen. You definitely have to be ready because you can't run from yourself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I try to live by this creed that I can't be a hypocrite. And if I'm asking others to take accountability for themselves, then I have to do the same. Uh, those triggers, I don't really feel compelled to run from or reject. I know, by no measure am I perfect, and there are things that I can do differently, things that I can say differently, things that I can react to differently, and it really causes me to take a moment to take that step back and go within and say, hey, you know what? Now that you know, now that you can recognize it and you see it, do something about it.
Yeah, and your twin will definitely point things out to you when you do something, that may not have been the best choice. They'll definitely tell you. That's one thing for sure. You'll know.
Like
They won't be quiet about it. They'll let you know.
like
And
a,
then you face it.
it's like a journey of self-exploration.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. This person is, walking you back home. They're walking you back to rediscovering yourself. Like I've heard people say, this person makes me better. We don't see it that way because, you hear people say this is my better half and stuff like that. There's no such thing. This person, your twin, will bring out the qualities that you have. They'll show you the best parts of yourself.
Yeah, I encourage you.
Thing.
Right.
And well, I really don't have much to add to that because
But what you're saying is you become your better half or your better self.
Yeah.
it's a person that it makes you want to be the best version of yourself that you can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then, they'll lift you up when everybody else is trying to kick you. They encourage you. They'll show you the best things about you and tell you, this is the kind of person you are. And you start to see it like, oh, that's true. That is me. Why have I been suppressing that? And then you kind of just rise up into it. Like, it's very empowering for sure.
Yeah.
But they don't make you better. They just show you that you're better than what you think you are.
That's awesome. I did have one last question, and I'm not sure, we did kind of touch on it already, but I'm going to ask it again if anything comes to mind. How do people know they are with the right partner?
It's going to sound cliche, but you'll know. There won't be a question.
If you have to ask, then you already know.
Yeah. It's really hard to put into words. It's something that you have to experience and you'll understand what we're saying. And you'll hear this come from a lot of the twins. They'll tell you, I can't tell you. You have to experience it yourself. And
at the same time, a lot of those doubts that you would typically have going into a relationship or trying to start one, whatever doubts you have are instantly shed. That's one thing. You know that you can be the rawest form of yourself when you're with this person. You don't have to hide anything in the closet. You can bring it all to the front. You can unmask. And when you can be that open with someone, that you don't feel ashamed, or you don't feel any judgment coming down on you, or you don't feel that you have to be inhibited, then that speaks volumes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and definitely look for synchronicities, because those are huge with twin souls. You know, it's your soul trying to tell you, like, hello, I'm right here. We had a lot of synchronicities. Telepathy is huge for us, where, you know, we can read each other's thoughts, emotions, we can feel each other's energy. It gets to the point where we don't even have to speak, because we can just talk to each other. We'll hear each other. We've had lots of those. You know, he could sit there and think, I'd really like a coffee right now. And I'll hear him and get up and go and make coffee and come down and give it to him. And he's just like, how'd you know? We have a little joke between us where, you know, we'll both speak at the same time and we happen to be thinking the same thing. So we'll say the exact same thing at the same time. And then we'll be like, get out of my head.
Yeah.
You know, can I speak for myself? But yeah, we're so completely in sync that it happens a lot. And people around us, when they see it happen, they're just like, you guys are ridiculous. It's too much. Like, come on. You can't be that in sync.
Sometimes you have to button your lips so that the other person can speak, because more often than not, they're about to say the same thing that you were about to say to begin with. So.
And so
Yeah.
let's just recap to be very clear for people so that they understand that the twin soul does not mean that half of you is the divine feminine and in one body, and then the divine masculine split and went into another body. Both people have the same soul, the complete whole same soul. And the idea of coming into union is so that soul can learn the balance that it needs for its divine masculine and divine feminine to be in balance. And then it will be in balance in both those individuals.
Yeah. And, you know, they tend to balance each other out. No pun intended, but, you know, I'm the divine feminine. I'm more in touch with my divine feminine. He's more divine masculine. And the things that, you know, I don't want to say lack, because you don't lack them. It's just the process you got to work through to improve them. I have those, and the things that I need to improve, he has. So we're teaching each other constantly how to balance.
And almost from seeing it, so he sees the divine feminine in you, which helps bring the divine feminine in him forward, and vice versa.
Yeah, exactly.
So do either of you have anything you'd like to say in closing?
I know you want to say something. I can see it.
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for taking the time out to listen to us and hear our story, sharing this moment with us.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here with us and for sharing your story.
Thank you.
You're welcome, and we'll sign off here. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.